Those who have played the Formula 1 video game for some time now will have no doubt at least tried to race around the Hanoi street circuit. However, that's as close as we got to it being in Formula 1, as despite being on the calendar in 2020 and 2021, the Vietnamese Grand Prix never actually saw the light of day. There are a number of different factors behind it, but now this track is basically left to ruin. Something that had many millions of dollars poured into it to be built never actually got off the ground. We have still not had a Vietnamese Grand Prix, and rumours of us returning to the Southeast Asian nation for a potential different track have really cooled. Indeed, the only real news from that part of the world is the potential for the Thai Grand Prix to come on the calendar around the streets of Bangkok. But what happened to Vietnam? Why did the race never happen? What were its failings, and what potentially could Formula 1 learn for the future? I've got everything you need to know here on the channel, guys. Let's have a look at this one. So it's fair to say over the past decade, Formula 1 has very much been in love with street circuits. The only street circuit on the Formula 1 calendar for a number of years was the Monaco Grand Prix. However, that changed when Singapore got its Grand Prix in 2008, becoming the first night race in the process as well. Since then, Formula 1 has had many different street circuits join the calendar, the likes of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, Miami in, well, Miami, and Las Vegas around Las Vegas, to name just a few. But there have also been some Grand Prix that have never got off the ground. For example, the potential race around the streets of New Jersey with that New York. For example, that potential race around the streets of New Jersey with New York City in the background, that never ended up happening despite being slated for a Grand Prix berth in 2015. It just never happened. Vietnam, unfortunately for the organisers of the event, very much falls into the latter category. The Hanoi street circuit was a 5.6 kilometre hybrid street and permanent circuit designed by Herman Tilke, because of course it was. Who else is going to make it? The track comprised of a mix of long straights and technical corners that weaved itself around the outskirts of Hanoi, the capital city of Vietnam. It also had a purpose-built complex as well for the paddock area and the pits. In total, around £540 million was invested into the facility, which is around 710 million US dollars. Or if you want that in the local currency, that is around 18.7 trillion Vietnamese dong. Anybody who's been to Vietnam very much knows that you get a lot of dong for your buck. Sorry, I know that's awful, but I couldn't resist. By early 2020, the construction was completed for the site, and the Vietnamese Grand Prix was set to start in April. But we all know what happened in March 2020. The world went into lockdown because of the virus of unknown origin from neighbouring China. And the Vietnamese Grand Prix, alongside a whole host of other Grand Prix, were delayed indefinitely, and Vietnam did not come back onto the calendar for 2020. And it was the same story in 2021 as well. It was delayed for another year. Now, it was meant to come back onto the calendar for the first time and actually run in 2022, but something else happened behind the scenes. Scandal, drama, controversy, nothing to do with racing, but all to do with crime in Vietnam. Hundreds of millions of dollars were invested into the project, but they hadn't seen any return on their investment because, well, they hadn't had a single race yet. How else are they going to get money? As far back as November 2020, Nguyen Duc Chung, who I'm probably pronouncing incorrectly, I do apologise, who was the Hanoi city mayor at the time, and the driving force behind the race in the first place, was sentenced to 5 years in prison on corruption charges. He was convicted twice more in 2022, extending his sentence to 10 years in total. So without its driving force and all that controversy behind the scenes, the Vietnamese government basically were not very interested in making the race a reality. And it just basically faded into obscurity. When the 2022 calendar for Formula 1 came up, Vietnam wasn't on there, and there's been no noise about it returning ever since. And that's not really a big surprise given the fact that the place is basically derelict now. It's just basically there as a white elephant just outside of the capital city of Vietnam. But is it a shame that Formula 1 never raced here? No, not in my opinion, I'll be honest. For a number of different reasons. I mean, anybody who's been to Vietnam will know how hot it is. We went to Malaysia, of course, many years ago in Formula 1. It's a similar climate to that, really. A little bit cooler, marginally, but still it is roasting in Vietnam. So it'd be a very difficult one to attend, not only from the point of view of the drivers, but also from the spectators as well. It'd be very oppressive unless you're in the shade. And the layout of the track was just absolutely abysmal, if I'm being totally honest. Anybody who raced on it on the F1 2020 video game will know what I'm talking about. It was rubbish. Yes, we do see some terrible circuits in Formula 1 produce good racers, but overall you want to have good tracks in F1, and this very much isn't it. But Formula 1's thirst for street tracks has not gone away, not by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, next year we're going to the Mad Ring for the first time around the streets of Madrid. So we're keeping going with this street circuit malaise for some reason. I can't work it out either, guys, to be honest. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I personally know from going to Vietnam there is a big appetite for Formula 1 there. There's a lot of different Formula 1 fans there. I'm not discrediting that, but I just think that this track was trash. Honestly, I don't miss it at all in the Formula 1 game, and I don't miss it at all in reality either. I am glad we never went there, but I think it's a bit of a shame to see that much money invested just go to waste. You know, it's like the Korean Grand Prix, the Valencia track for the European Grand Prix, the Indian Grand Prix, although that is used a little bit as the Bud circuit, but not that much, of course. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. As always, have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.